Alright, this was a crazy game Jared and I played at the office, so I'm going to kind of skip forward to the action. I did went to Caro-Kann. This is all pretty mainline stuff. This is the last book move. I did kind of a thing where I did a blunder intentionally, kind of just some tactics training. So I played the move bishop g4, and the reason why it's a blunder is there's a removing the defender chess tactic. So obviously you're worried because the bishop attacking your queen, but the only thing defending this bishop is the knight. So the benefit you have is that when you take, it's with check. So whichever way you take back, I would take back with the f pawn. And the problem is in the next move, it's my turn, and now the bishop's undefended, so you pick up the bishop, and white has just an easy, clean piece. And so on the same vein of that, once he played f3, I basically set up the same tactic, although it's a little bit differently. He didn't see it, which is just, yeah, put the bishop on f5. It's the same story. Takes, bishop's still undefended. You pick up the bishop, everything's defended. So that was missed. So the game went on. G4, I took. Interestingly enough, I thought you had to take with the bishop, because the downside of taking with the pawn is that white or black picks up the d4 pawn, but lo and behold, those are the best moves, and it says the game is all equal. This is a blunder for reasons I'm not entirely sure about, because basically engine says these two are equal, so I don't know what's supposed to be so bad about this. Because yeah, whether you go to queen c5 or queen b6, it's totally innocuous. So move back here, and what you need to do is do something to defend this pawn over here, because otherwise I'm going to take it. And so you can push, that's a little risky, or you just do this and then the queen defends the pawn. So I took, move the queen out. Now what I should have done was just immediately check, force the piece over, and start the tactics. But I thought to myself, why not get the knight out, and I can get more pieces into the game. And I don't think there's an easy way to obviously stop the attack. So moves here, then I check, moves forward. And you don't want to check too soon, because then the pieces just kind of escape and you don't really get anything from it. But obviously in this position it was kind of crazy, because once the check's here, you don't want to go to d1. So once you go to d1, then I have a pretty good move. It's not even the best move, but this pretty good move, knight f3, which is what I was looking at. So not only does it attack these two pieces, but it also sets up a really, really annoying fork. So the best move here is just to play king c2 and drop the rook at that point, which doesn't seem like a move that you want to do. So game goes on, and you're supposed to bring the knight in over to this side of the game to just bring it in on the attack, because it's just dreadful. But I didn't see that. I just basically saw this scenario where he's forced to move the queen back, but then once I castle, I'll have some ops here. He moves over, then I castle, then he moves the bishop up, and that's kind of where it got a little bit worse. What you're supposed to do is just move the piece over, get out of the pin. Even though you're allowing knight e3 check, everything's defended, technically speaking. So as long as you're safe and careful, you can get out. So an example of that would be move over here. Obviously you can't do knight, check in this position. The best move you're supposed to do is just actually takes, rook d3, takes here, have to move back, takes, and it's like white's still up a piece here, but at least it's almost an exchange, because black has, white has taken the bishop and the rook, and white has the bishop and two knights from black, so, or from white, so it's like pros and cons. It's the pawns that really do a lot of the damage here. So here you do check, then you take, and then there's only one legal move because all these squares are covered, so you'd have to move the queen, move the king back. It's forced. Now you have a couple different options. You can do queen takes e2. You can also do queen e3 check. You can even do queen d2 check. I did this, which isn't quite as good, but basically the threat's pretty straightforward. It's just, if it's my turn, I check, you block, I check, and it's mate. So this is where a move I had talked about. One of the benefits of making this castle move is that the 7 pawn is undefended, and it looks a little too good to leave there. Obviously you shouldn't do it because it takes. And now you have a couple series of different moves here. You start with the bishop. That's actually the longest one. It's a mate in 6. So basically check here. What you need to do is block, which is what he did. And then if you take, then you have the knight over here. Now what you need to do is just accept the situation, take and take. Because if you don't do that, there's no other move. So you might think to yourself that you can play rook d1, but actually takes, well, that's just checkmate. But even if there's something different, you're not going to walk out of this looking very pretty. And on top of that, rook d1, there's also this checkmate. And so that's kind of something you need to do to get out of it. What you need to do is just take, because that's the only way. It's check. You move over here. It's obviously going to be checks galore. The only problem with rook b1, which is the second best move, they both lead to mate in 4 or 5, is obviously take, move out, take. You have to move up here, and then queen. Yeah, you can just check again, and it's looking pretty tough. So that didn't happen. He did rook e1, and now you actually have the really fun checkmate of takes, and then this is still checkmate, which is kind of fun. The king somehow has nowhere to go. But if you don't like that one, obviously, you can just take right here, which is what I did. There was one really cool moment back here where if you block with the queen instead, you have to be a little bit careful. And so the best move actually here isn't to take the queen. It's to go knight e3, because then you're still threatening the same 2 mates. And obviously, if you take with the queen, that's instant checkmate, so you can't really do that. So the best move in this position is to play this and just basically accept the queen loss without it being checkmate, which again, there's mate in 2 and mate in 1, so it's not saving you from anything. It increases the duration of the game. So that was a really interesting one. A lot of tactics there, a lot of just knight making the king run around along with the queen. So good game, Jared.